Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mimosa Fridays podcast, a show where we share powerful life lessons and a few laughs as Gail empowers others as she sits at the intersection of people, purpose, and politics while sipping on mimosas. Holidays are upon us, shipping containers have stalled, store shelves are limited. What will be under the Christmas tree? Unwrap your business products and services on News in Motion broadcast and Mimosa Fridays podcast with Gail, available to support your success as prime real estate in a committed audience. Contact News in Motion with Gail at gmail.com to reserve your live 3-minute spot. Don't delay. Only 24 spots are available for $297 each. Contact today. Now grab some orange juice and champagne and welcome your host, Gail Dudley.
I'm so excited. I'm going to bring on a wonderful faith organizer. And in our conversation, he has no problem with me describing him this way, a Jewish faith organizer, Jacob Kraus-Preminger. He is a faith-based organizer who lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, but y'all, he serves Minnesota, Florida, and Texas. He has experienced the power of people from across faiths joining together to transform their communities and win lasting change. Jacob's career has lived at the intersection of faith and social justice. Over the past several years, he has organized people in Ohio, Minnesota, Florida, and Texas, and around the country on issues such as racial justice, immigrant justice, voting rights, and community safety. Now, as I bring him on, and I want y'all to hear this, it's November, we just voted, but it's not too soon to start talking about some of the issues that we need to talk about. And thinking about, here's the time. Christmas is different. Holidays are different. Whatever faith holiday you celebrate, it's different this year. There's a lot of difference. So why not gift in the honor or in the memory of someone's name to a campaign? We'll talk about that in a few minutes as well. Hey, Jacob, what's up?
Good morning. I'm so glad to be here.
I'm so glad you're here. So I just said a little bit about you. We met with with an organizing platform in Ohio, and we connected. We talked about Bible studies. We talked about things we could do to put out there of what's going on so that we can help you understand everything that's happening on every spectrum. This infrastructure bill is out now. There's that social platform. What was it? $1.85 trillion. Even that. These are times we need to contact our representatives and say, pass this bill. So welcome, Jacob. I'm so glad you're here. As questions come through from the chat, I'll post them up here on the screen. But we're just going to jump in. Is that okay?
That sounds great. Yeah.
I've been talking about food insecurity. That's really our platform. If you look at it, we're not a nonprofit, but that's like the social enterprise of News in Motion. And with that, with going into the holiday season, there's so much going on. But I think people want to separate those who are food insecure from voting and representatives and economics and housing and healthcare and all of that. Can you talk about that for us? I know I just gave you this whole big ball, but I know you can handle it.
Sure. Yeah, well, first of all, it's really great to be here. So wonderful to watch the sunrise with all of you. It's been a while since I've been awake this early, but I'm really glad to be here. When you asked the question, it made me think about some of my first experiences, sort of being there serving folks who are experiencing food insecurity. When I was in 6th grade, I went with my Sunday school class to one of the soup kitchens here in Cincinnati, and they showed us how to serve the food and keep everything safe and all that. But they also talked to us a little bit and helped us hear a little bit from folks who were coming through. And a real big myth was sort of busted for me in that. I walked in thinking like, folks are coming through, can't afford anything. They might not have homes. They might not have jobs. They might not have any of that stuff. But I learned that I was wrong, and that often folks who are experiencing food insecurity, they're experiencing it because they're being forced to make choices they shouldn't have to make, between, it's not always, I don't have enough money for anything. It's, I have enough money for maybe 3 things, but what I really need is a home, healthcare, education for my kids, and food. And if I can only choose 3, maybe I'm going to choose home, healthcare, education. I'm not going to choose food. And so the question then becomes, what is it that we can do to expand the number of choices that people have? Because those choices are based on what their job is, what their wealth is, how much does their housing cost, how much does their healthcare cost? And all of those things, those come from government policy. It's our governments that are deciding, oh, it's okay that rents can go up and up and up. It's okay that healthcare costs can go up and up and up. It's okay that our schools can get less and less money. It's okay that our wages can be stagnant over decades. And so we talk about why it's important not just to bring ourselves into the voting booth, but to bring our friends and our neighbors and all those folks. It has direct impacts on this issue of food insecurity. And that if we can actually have a people's movement for fair wages, for good jobs, for affordable health care, for housing justice, that's also going to create more food security in our communities and around the country.
Thank you for putting that out there, because I think so often we want to put food insecurity in its own bucket. And we want to put voting in its own bucket. We want to separate it when it's really the system that we're working through on a regular basis. So why, and you and I talked about this, and everyone, don't think I'm being insensitive. Jacob and I have had these conversations before. When I first met him, and y'all know me by now, I just ask questions. I'm like, wait a minute, you're Jewish and you're a faith organizer. I said, tell me how that comes together. And he let me know that there's this, what was it like? It's just false that Jewish people are not organizers. I want you to share that with the viewers. Please jump in and share that.
Sure. Yeah. So one of the big reasons why I'm an organizer is because so many of the people at my back who I learned from, who I'm inspired by, are, not just Jewish organizers of the past 10, 15, 50 years, but of the past 5,000 years. I grew up on the story of Moses saying to Pharaoh, we're not going to serve you anymore. We're not going to put our faith in Pharaoh. We're going to put our faith in God and in each other. And we're going to walk out from a place of narrowness to a place of expansiveness. And so part of it is like, it's in the story, but also it's in the experience. I, especially when I got into college and started to learn more about organizing, learned about the history of Jewish folks in the labor movement and the civil rights movement. And when I look around today, there's, I think, a couple reasons why. And the flip side of the question is, why is it in my interest as a white Jewish man and an interest of the people that I share and build community with to be involved in organizing, to be involved in social justice? I think there's a couple of big reasons. One is that the community that I'm a part of is much more racial and economic diversity than often it looks like, than even it looked like to me growing up. So when we talk about, racial justice as a Jewish issue, it's not just because our text says that God created everyone in God's image, and so we should be treating folks equally. It's because racial justice is a family issue inside of our Jewish community. It's about what does it mean for Jews of color to be able to move through the world in justice and dignity, and move through our synagogues in justice and dignity. And I think the other big piece of this is that so many communities that can be divided, conquered, marginalized for the benefit of those who are really holding power in this country, have to ask ourselves the question of, like, who do we want to stand in power with to build communities, states, countries where all of us can actually thrive? And my experience as an organizer has been building that type of power with BIPOC communities, with immigrant communities, with Native communities, with working people, it has made my life better. Not just, in the not just in a spiritual sense, but in a real material sense. When I'm facing an issue, I know who to go to and who I'm going to be in power with, and that I know that this country was built by people who look like me, but it was not built by people who pray like me, and um, uh, and that we can actually make a society where all of us can thrive if we understand that there are more people who are marginalized by the powers that be than people who are benefiting from the powers that be. And so, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to jump. Don't lose that thought. But what you just said something so powerful. You actually said a couple of things. One, who do we want to align with the power? Where's the power to be, and what table do we want to go to?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, if we only knew the collective power, including those who are oppressed and marginalized, if we would come together, we wouldn't have some of these systems in place because we would have torn them apart by now. So how then do we get to the connection of that voting rights issue to get that passed? What can we do as boots on the ground, if you will, as constituents to say, okay, no, we're going to make this change and we want to educate people. We want to intentionally educate people on these areas so that we can come together. Can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Yeah, totally. I think there are a few different levels to voting rights. And so what I would start with is there's the grassroots people to people level. It is going to take a long time to make sure that the power is aligned around everyone being able to vote and make it as easy as possible. Now, in some states where you all might be living, you might already have amazing things like automatic voter registration or the ability to register on the same day of voting. But it's really going to be everyday people who are going to protect that sacred right. So it often starts with, who are the 10 people in your life you want to talk to over the next 2 months about voting rights, and make sure that they're showing up to vote, that they're contacting their legislators about voting rights. And then we can kind of move up the chain. So your states are going to be the ones who are going to decide most of your voting policy. And so depending on where you live, you're going to want to look at those laws. And then, the sort of the tippy top, the hardest place to move things, but the most powerful place to move things is our federal government. And over the past several months, there's been federal voting rights law that's been negotiated by Democrats in Congress. Joe Manchin is on board with it. Kristen Sinema is on board with it. We just have this filibuster in the way. And so I also believe right now there needs to be a lot of pressure put on our president, on the leaders of the Senate, to say, we're not going to let this filibuster rule get in the way of something that is widely popular, no matter what your party is. And also that's essential to everyday people having power in this country, because we know that between redistricting and voter suppression, the folks who don't want everyday people to have a voice at the ballot, they are using every tool in their toolbox. Honestly, the folks who might want everyday people to have a voice at the ballot, we have not used all of our tools yet. And we need to.
What are some of those tools?
Well, I think our federal leaders need to get rid of the filibuster. Yeah, Kenneth Stanley, I see you saying it. That's the tool I'm thinking about. And I think the other big tool is building our networks of relationships. I know people who don't think about voting until a week or two before the election, but really care about these issues. What if I'm talking to them 3 months before the election, so we can get clear on what the big issues are for them, and then they can get clear on who the 10 people are they can talk to? Because if they're not thinking about it till a week before, they probably got friends who aren't thinking about the election till the day before or God forbid, the day after. So I think that's the other big place. I don't think that it's possible to totally out-organize all of the voter suppression. We need the folks that we've put in office to look out for us, to actually look out for us, and the people who are going to make sure that they take action, and the people who are going to make sure that voters come out in record numbers next fall. It's you, Gail, it's me, it's everyone watching this. It's all of the relationships that we're going to build.
Yeah. I'm looking at the time, y'all. But I got to ask Jacob a couple more questions. If you can hang with me, great. If not, then check the replay. But I hope you can hang with us a little bit longer. What are some of the, what are some of the biggest opportunities and challenges you see in the upcoming 2022 elections? Because I'm seeing a whole lot of them. But can you speak to that? Because and again, everyone who's tuning in, we need to talk about this now, not the week before election, because we need to strategize now. So can you speak to that real quick, please?
Absolutely. And there are two sides of the same coin, actually. I think the biggest opportunity is togetherness. So, in 2020, voters came out in record numbers because people worked together. They said, we share a big vision for what this country could look like. And they said, we're going to work together to make sure that happens. And maybe all the little details we're not 100% aligned on, but we'll get there. And the only way to get there is by working together. So I think there's an opportunity for voters to come out in record numbers. A lot of congressional races that are really important, governor races, and I already talked about Beto earlier today. There will probably be local races. The flip side of that coin, the challenge, is that folks who do not want us to be together, they see how powerful it is, and they are already trying to find ways to divide. They are already using, what some folks call dog whistle politics to say to us, to a certain group of people, hey, those folks that you're working with, they're trying to tell them lies about how we don't actually all want the same thing. They're trying to tell them that, you see it a lot in school boards right now around racial justice education in schools. That's, I think, one of the biggest places where we see dog whistle politics at play right now. They are trying to divide and conquer. And so I think the way to confront that challenge is to be really clear about when folks are saying things and that their intention is to divide. And for us to be really clear about why they're doing that. They're doing that because they're afraid of our power. And it means that we have to stare that in the face and say, I see through your lies. We're actually going to do better if we're all together. And so I'm going to work doubly hard in the face of your lies for us to win power together.
Yes. For those of you who do not know the definition of dog whistle power, can you speak to that, Jacob?
Yeah. So think of it comes from the dog whistle. So if you blow a dog whistle, it's so high pitched that humans can't really hear it, but the dog can hear it. The idea behind a dog whistle is that it's coded language, and particularly around race, that most people don't really get what it means. But if you're a white supremacist, or if you can be sort of pulled in by white supremacy, you know what it means. So I think the most recent example, Aaron Rodgers a couple of weeks ago talked about the woke mob. That's like so many dog whistles wrapped up in one. That's racialized. It doesn't sound like racialized language on the face of it, but it is. And he's basically saying to people when he says woke mob, he's talking about people of color. And he's able to say it without saying it. And that is a tool used to divide people and be able to say, honestly, really racist stuff. But then if someone turns around and says, hey, I think what you just said was racist, you're like, oh, no, I didn't say it. That's not what I meant. You didn't hear me right. Meanwhile, wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the white nationalists over there.
And listen, y'all, if you didn't hear anything else in this whole entire broadcast, make sure you share this clip right here of what Jacob just said so that people understand. That's why I asked him to define it, because some people hear the language and like, I don't really know what that means. And you're just saying, yes, he just broke it down for all of us. I have another question. I know we were out of time, but y'all hold on. I got another question. what are other ways people can get together and create change outside of the elections? Because I think people think it's only at that hype moment. They look at it as this is my hype time or my hype season, but we need to be hyped all the time, and maybe not even hype, but educated to do this. So what are some ways people can get together and create change outside of the elections?
Sure. So my big, it's my back pocket thing here is that you got to remember that the biggest power you have is with you and your people. Whoever those people are, the folks in your neighborhoods, the folks in your workplace, the folks in your churches, your mosques, your synagogues, whoever it is. And so what you can be doing, what we can all be doing is looking for where is power moving and how can I build people power to be a part of that? So sometimes it's going to be your city council. Sometimes it's going to be your legislature. Sometimes it's going to be your prosecutor's office or your judges. But sometimes it might be your workplace. It might be the big, some of the biggest corporations in your city or town. Sometimes it might be, the whoever's going to get these big government contracts or these infrastructure, projects. How do we make sure that they're being just and doing right by the communities that they're helping to build up? Power is moving all around us. And I think you all we all know and see it on a day-to-day basis. And wherever power is moving, we can build people power to make sure it moves in the right direction.
I totally agree with that. And speaking of that, now you didn't open up another door. I have to go there too. The government contracts are coming forth. And I've been looking at this. Now, I've been trying to figure out how can News in Motion be a part of this. And that is to educate you all on how to complete these contracts because they have to be completed a certain way. At the same time, as organizers, we can also raise our voices to make sure the little person, as they seem as a little person, we know you're not little, but the little people, again, that's their terminology. I'm just using it because I don't believe any of us are little. Have an opportunity for these contracts as well. So Jacob, what can you speak to? I know we only have a short time, maybe 60 seconds, but what can you speak to about that? How can we get organized to make sure that these contracts are going out to the marginalized communities, to people who have the education or the skill or the brain power, the brilliance, whatever, to be able to grab some of these contracts?
It's a good question. It's a little bit outside what I know day to day, but I would say the biggest thing is just keep a really close eye on this process as it unfolds and hold people accountable to the promises they've been making. The president and everyone who's been working on this infrastructure bill has been making promises that this is going to be an opportunity to build communities, to create good union jobs. I'm really hopeful for that. And sometimes we make promises and we need to be held accountable on our promises. That's absolutely true for our politicians. And so I think it's keeping a close eye on that process and knowing that just because someone says something is going to happen or because it's in the bill, it's going to happen, it's not going to actually happen without all of us being really vigilant and saying, maybe I've never gone for a government contract before, but I'm going to go for it because I was promised I'm going to have an opportunity to help build up my community. And so I'm going to shoot my shot. I'm going to go for it.
Right. And I think that's so important, y'all. And Jacob touched on something it's extremely important. And that is know the language, which means you may have to read the bill. And I've shared with you previously on how to skim bills to pull out what's important and look at key words. That's another place right there, y'all, to do that. And if we need to do a workshop around it, then we need to do a workshop around it. But know the language, know the information that's been shared. Jacob, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Y'all, I just want to read this. Jacob sent this to me. He said, the big theme I keep thinking might make sense is how I've seen people getting together from multiracial, multi-faith, multi-place, and economically diverse backgrounds to win real changes, and how those who build their power by sowing division will remain a threat through 2022 unless we remain clear about where our strength comes from and why they are trying to divide and conquer. That right there is absolutely powerful. I want to see what Cherie's saying before I give the inspirational message. She says, that's the biggest issue, Gail. How do grassroots organizations build capacity to even go after the government contracts, especially nonprofit organizations? Cherie, let's connect. I know we're going into Thanksgiving, but let's connect the week after Thanksgiving, the two of us, and talk through that. And if anybody else on here wanted to be a part of that conversation, we can easily put together a Zoom piece. Jacob, if you want to join us, we would love for you to join us as well. But y'all, we have to start somewhere. So again, thank you, Jacob, for hanging out with us today. This was so helpful, so beneficial. I'm so glad I met you over a year ago. We worked together, y'all, as I was a contractor doing some work with organizing, met this young man, and it's been like, hey, let's hang out. I'm learning a lot from you. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And thank you for having me this morning. It's been really great.
Absolutely. You'll just have to come back.
That's right.
All right. See you later. Let me give y'all the inspirational message, everyone. Y'all, the inspirational message that I want to share today is that live how you would like to be treated. I want all of us to live how you would like to be treated. I was watching a reel yesterday. I don't know how I get caught up in these reels on Instagram and on Facebook. I was watching a reel yesterday, and they were throwing these red cups. It's on my wall. This guy and this girl were throwing red cups, and whoever put the red cup in, they win. And so the young lady got the cups to stack. The guy talks about he wants to get 1 million followers by February. And then he just takes his first cup and he throws it and it lands, it goes in. And they both, there's shock on their face, their excitement, their smile, their laughter. And then he breaks out into a dance. And he was just like all hyped. And I sat back and I watched that reel, I don't know how many times, laughing. But I was like, wow, what lesson is in this lesson? And that is, he lived. When I saw that reel, he lives to be exciting and to speak life and to encourage other people. Then I looked at his t-shirt. I don't know why. It says something like, my faith matters. And I thought, oh, wow, he just took it to another level. Y'all, you have to have faith in yourself to do whatever it is that God has gifted you to do in this season. Y'all, live your life like you would want other people to treat you. That is so important. I know it's easy to go day by day and deal with the situations and things that are going on in your life. But beyond all of that, live your life like you want other people to treat you. If you want to complain about other people, you're living your life that you want people to complain about you. If you want to be negative and talk about other people, you are living your life like you want other people to be negative and living their life that way. You want to live. So, for example, I love joy. I love promoting people. I love seeing people soar. I love educating people on politics. I love giving the news. I do. The research may take me out every now and then, but bottom line, I know I'm living my life on purpose these days. I'm living my life on purpose. I look back and ask myself, why didn't I live that way 20, 30 years ago? I'm 56 now. I don't have that answer. But now when I'm around the millennials and my daughter and her friends, my son and his friends, and the millennials and interns that we work with, I'm always speaking life, encouraging them. I'm like, okay, let's look at the other side of this. Right now you're down and you're frustrated and you're angry, but let's look at the other side of this. Let's look at this as, what problem can you solve? What's the pain point? How can you live through this? How can you make your day better? And I've had people say, well, you know, my day is 11 o'clock at night. Yes, I talk to people late at night when they're calling me up. I'm always trying to make myself available. And I said, okay, but what can you do in the next 60 minutes to turn your day around? And getting them to think differently. So y'all live life how you would want to be treated. That's how we're going to turn things around here. I see some of you in here. Kenny says our strength comes from us staying together. Pastor Alex said great information. Jacob, I see you're still in the green room. Thanks for hanging out. Don't go anywhere because I'm going to talk to you afterwards. Kenny said that reel was hilarious, but it was so inspirational. It was. Latrice is talking about the inspirational message. Live how you would want to be treated. Y'all, that's all I have. I know we went over today. Sometimes it's just like that. Jacob gave us some amazing, powerful information today. Pray for me, y'all. My millennial team is breaking up because they're all getting promoted and they're doing different things. But I want them to rise. I want them to soar. I want them to do what they could do. But that's okay, because I'm getting ready to call Isaiah Jones. I'm gonna need to put him to work. But y'all, pray for me. We're going into the new year with a different looking team. But y'all, we can conquer this. We can do it. They've been so gracious to me and with me over the past, since June 22nd, 2020. And they're not completely gone, but things are changing because they have different demands on their work. So y'all pray for me, but I'm so excited for every last single one of them. All right, y'all know what I say. Stay well, everyone. And remember, make some moves.
Are you ready to raise awareness of your brand, product, or service? Gail, the host of News in Motion and Mimosa Friday podcast, is an influencer who brings attention to every product she mentions. She started out with a few followers and is growing her base daily. Listeners tune in Monday through Friday from around the U.S. and beyond. Let Gail help you expand and connect with new customers from all around. To get your brand, product, or services mentioned on her shows, just contact info.gaildudley@gmail.com to request her media deck. Catch Gail each weekday on News in Motion on Facebook Live at facebook.com/newsinmotion or her YouTube at youtube.com/Gail Dudley. You can also follow Gail on Instagram and Twitter at Gail Dudley and visit her website, www.gaildudley.com. Until next week, as Gail always signs off, stay well and remember to make some moves.